Now to the strongest signal yet that former President Donald Trump could soon be charged with a crime. A source now confirms the Manhattan District Attorney invited Trump to appear before a grand jury. The source declined to comment on whether Trump is entertaining that offer. Trump lashed out last night at prosecutors in New York who are now investigating that alleged hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels. They're also looking into whether it was classified as a legal expense during his 2016 presidential campaign. For more on this, we bring in now CBS News legal contributor Rebecca Roiphe. Thanks so much for being here, Rebecca.
Thank you.
I want to start with a bit of an explainer here. Can you talk about why this move from the Manhattan DA could suggest there are potential criminal charges on the table for the former president?
Absolutely. So New York has a different kind of grand jury practice, and in a number of ways, but one of those ways is that the defendant is permitted to testify before the grand jury prior to any charges. And so this is, as you said, a signal that charges are likely imminent. It doesn't mean that they are necessarily coming down the road, but it is highly unusual for a prosecutor in New York to invite some target into the grand jury and then ultimately determine that charges are inappropriate. So it's possible, but unlikely.
And prosecutors on Truth Social. Basically, Rebecca's saying that they're out to get him. This is a potential witch hunt. What do you make of that response? Do you think he'll actually testify?
So no, I don't think he'll actually testify. It's not. It's very, very unusual for a defendant to testify in the grand jury, and that's because then the defendant, would be locked into that particular story. The words that he said in front of the grand jury could ultimately come back to haunt him at trial. So it's extremely unlikely that he would do that. But in terms of the posturing, that's his MO. He at every given point he says that this is a political witch hunt, and it works to a certain extent for the former president. The question is, really when it comes down to actual legal proceedings, that's not an official defense. And so he'll have to come up with a more specific argument that directly addresses the charges that are brought by the Manhattan DA should that happen.
But we know that legal proceedings just take so much time. It's such a long process. In the meantime, how might this impact Trump's presidential campaign?
Well, I'm sure he's hoping it will give it new life, sort of charging his base in a state of anger at, what he would claim would be the, Democrats' effort to undermine his political career. That could certainly work for him. But, I think also there is a potential that independent voters and voters that are, more centrist might be turned off by that and, done with the drama here and want to move on from the former administration. And so, I don't really know how that will play out. I think it could have that effect on both sides.
And we also know that Trump could be facing some other legal challenges. Walk us through what that looks like.
Right. So, in some ways, these New York charges, at least insofar as we understand what they are, stemming from the Stormy Daniels payments, are relatively small. Even if it's charged as a felony, that's a lower felony that comes with a maximum of 5 years in prison and potentially no prison time at all. He's facing far more serious investigations from Georgia and from the Department of Justice concerning his role on January 6th and whether, in fact, he intervened and interfered with the election and the process that Congress was going through, and that could be much more serious should charges end up coming from either of those. But of course, we don't know how those will turn out.
Okay, we'll keep a close eye on this story. Rebecca Roiphe, thanks so much.
Thank you.